Why did Imran Khan fail as Pakistani Prime Minister? Why did a popular, charismatic, well-educated political leader like Imran Khan of Pakistan have a spectacular failure as a Prime Minister? Imran Khan was a former cricketer, who was the captain of the Pakistani team, who won the Cricket World Cup in 1992. He was a demigod of Pakistan during his glory days. When Imran Khan wanted to build a huge cancer hospital in Lahore, in the 1990s, the buzz was very loud in Pakistan. Pakistanis all over the world contributed big and small, and felt they are part of Imran Khan's selfless efforts of building a world-class hospital. He also built one more hospital in Peshawar. How then? Imran Khan was an absolute failure in every measurable aspect of being the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Several Pakistanis still like him, and he enjoys a wide range of support, especially among those living abroad, but Imran Khan's current popularity is a far cry compared to his heydays. Imran Khan has been courted by political leaders and military dictators since 1987 to enter international politics. In 1987, Zia-ul-Haq, the military dictator, was willing to give him a prominent role, which Imran declined. Later in the early 1990s, Nawaz Sharif, the then Pakistani Prime Minister, offered him a role in his party, again refused by Imran Khan. When Imran Khan eventually jumped into politics in 1996, by founding his own political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, there were two political powerhouses in Pakistani politics, the Pakistan Muslim League, or PML, headed then by Nawaz Sharif, who is from the dominant Punjab province, and the Pakistan People's Party, PPP, headed at that time by Benazir Bhutto, who was influential in the Sindh province. Imran Khan suffered massive electoral defeats in 1997 and 2002, and boycotted the 2008 elections. He was criticized by his opponents as a political novice, someone who was inconsistent, with no ideology, and even called him a clown. In 1999, Pakistan had a military coup, when Pervez Musharraf, the military dictator, overthrew the elected Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif. Imran Khan supported the military coup. When Musharraf had sham elections and referendums, Imran Khan supported them as well, though rest of all the political parties opposed them, and called out for what they were. However, after 2004, Imran Khan turned against Musharraf, and there was a belief that Imran Khan may be put under long periods of arrest, or sent into exile. However, Musharraf was forced out of his authority, with the turn of events in Pakistani politics, and Imran Khan was back as a strong political leader again. In the 2013 elections, Imran Khan and his party started emerging as a force, built mainly on the support from the tribal area, fundamentalists, Islamists, anti-Westerners, and a sizable section of the youth population. By 2018, the Lady of Fortune eventually looked at Imran Khan favorably. Imran Khan was undoubtedly a very popular leader, but the covert support by the army pushed him into a position of power. In Pakistan, there are two powerful institutions who wield power much above the Prime Minister, or President, and they are the Pakistani Army and their spy agency, Inter-Services Intelligence, or ISI, with the army having absolute control in foreign policy and defense. By 2018, the Pakistani army had a fallout with the main political party, PML, and they have never liked the other major party, PPP. Imran Khan and his party, PTI, seemed to be the choice of the army. Imran Khan's chief opponent, Nawaz Sharif, was first disqualified, and later convicted on corruption charges. Many influential leaders of the other major political party, PPP, suddenly switched sides to join Imran Khan's party, PTI. So, in many ways, the army picked Imran Khan as the Pakistani Prime Minister in 2018. The generals in Pakistan have evolved politically, and have become quite savvy, even more than the Pakistani politicians. They mostly facilitate the election process and government formation, and thereafter, nudge their preferred leader to govern the country their way, and corruption is part of their game plan. To quote the Bible verse, "The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away." In Pakistan, the army gave the role of Prime Minister to Imran Khan, and they took it away, when they found him unacceptable. Though this has been denied by both Imran Khan and the Pakistani army, it's an open secret to most political pundits, election observers, and journalists within Pakistan. Imran Khan's downfall ultimately rests with his own mistakes. He made the army's job of removing him from power much easier, with his policies, proposals, plans, and actions. During his tenure, Imran Khan made no improvement in Pakistan, in any measurable way. His major successes came in relatively better management of COVID, planting trees, and some populist poverty eradication schemes. On the other hand, Imran Khan was responsible to push Pakistan into a deeper and deeper hole of debt, and burning the friendships with Pakistan's key allies, built over several decades. Let's look at some of his main failures, starting with his domestic policies. Imran Khan's main promise was to reduce corruption, provide transparency, and increase employment for the youth. On the issue of corruption, Imran Khan hardly made a dent, and he later blamed it on the establishment, meaning the army, and the deep-rooted corrupt system, that couldn't take a shock, and hence he couldn't do much. On the economy, Imran Khan was dismally horrible. He had to keep borrowing from the International Monetary Fund, even to pay for the interest he had borrowed earlier. IMF had given more than a dozen bailouts, but Pakistan kept slipping down more and more. Imran Khan's government on average added 14.2 billion rupees per day to public debt. The total public debt increased by 78%, from September 2018 to April 2022, which indicates a whopping 20.3% average increase each year. Imran Khan had a dubious achievement of reducing the per capita income of Pakistanis every year in his almost 4-year stay in power. When Imran Khan came to power, the Pakistani rupee was around 120 against $1. When Imran Khan left office, it was nearly 190. The inflation in Pakistan when Imran took over power was 3.13%, and when he left office, it was 13.2%. Of course, there was no improvement with the employment scenario either. If anything, Pakistan's unemployment situation got worse every year. His domestic policy failures weren't restricted just to economics. Pakistan has had a strategic policy of training, funding, and arming a wide variety of terrorist organizations, to cause terrorist attacks within India, a policy known as, Bleed India with 1,000 cuts, followed for several decades. But, there are a few of those terror groups, who turned against Pakistan, and its army. TTP, or Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, is one of them, which has killed many army, and innocent lives within Pakistan. When Imran Khan gave an amnesty to the TTP, even his best supporters were shocked. Imran Khan has been called as Taliban Khan, for his support to many extremist groups, throughout his political career. Imran Khan also buckled under pressure, with the far-right Islamic party, tehreek-e-labbaik, despite their violence on the streets of Pakistan, which made him look weak, and an open supporter of fundamentalism, and extremism. His attacks on his opposition parties went a little further, constantly labeling them as thieves, and looters. His style made the main opposition parties, who were ideologically opposed to each other, join forces to oust him, later. Imran's domestic policy failures, however, will not match his even bigger foreign policy blunders. For the past 5 or 6 decades, Pakistan has had very strong alliance with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has pumped money into Pakistan, pushed their fundamentalist Islam, made Pakistan into an extremist state, and influenced their foreign policy. Pakistan has always been so much in need of money from Saudi Arabia, that they had to listen to them, for their functioning. Imran became closer to Turkey, since 2019, who were then having a bitter clash with Saudi Arabia. The Saudi-Pakistan relations went through high friction for most part of Imran's stay in power. This seriously affected Pakistan's influence in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or OIC nations. Imran had followed a strong anti-West policy, despite being heavily dependent on the US and the IMF for Pakistan's existence. The US and the West were angry when Pakistan's Air Force helped the Taliban for an immediate takeover of Afghanistan in 2021, with not enough time for the US forces to have a planned exit. Imran couldn't seem to hide his joy at the US fiasco, and made several undiplomatic public statements, making the relations sour further. Imran's closeness with China went a little too far during his time in office. Also, China had given high-interest loans to economically unsustainable infrastructure projects, named CPEC, which also disrupted the lives of millions of Pakistanis. Some of the closest aides of Imran Khan were alleged to have been involved in corruption with these infrastructure projects. The clutch of China on Pakistan, and the loss of support from the US, due to Imran's policies, made Pakistan a subservient nation under China. Despite Imran showing himself as a champion for the cause of the suppressed Muslims around the world, and his rhetoric on Kashmir, he failed to condemn the brutality China was committing on the Xinjiang Muslims, the destruction of thousands of mosques, and desecration of the Islamic religious books. Imran's hypocrisy and his inability to even register his protest on China's atrocities against a million Muslims made him look weak and impotent. During his term, Imran Khan made the India-Pakistan relations become even more worse than what it already was, by attacking the Indian Prime Minister personally, and fabricating outright lies to create sensationalism. Despite all his failures on multiple fronts, Imran would have still survived had he not committed even a bigger blunder, his quarrel with the army. This was a red line, and when he crossed it, the death knell was sounded on his role as the Prime Minister. In October 2021, when the army had cleared the name of Lieutenant General Nadeem Anjem as the new Director General of the Pakistani spy agency, ISI, replacing Lieutenant General Hamid, Imran Khan opposed the army chief, General Bajwa, and wanted Hamid to continue. Though, as can be expected, the army won this tussle easily, but the damage was already done. General Bajwa and senior army officers decided, it's time to let Imran Khan go. Within a few months after this incident, Imran Khan's coalition started to wobble, and his party lost the support to retain the majority in the National Assembly of Pakistan. Despite several attempts made by Imran Khan, and the Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, to retain his power, Imran Khan eventually was thrown out, due to a no-confidence motion in the National Assembly, ending his term as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Imran Khan had an opportunity to improve the average Pakistani's life. He came in with a clear promise that he'll create a new Pakistan, a Pakistan without corruption, and provide transparency. He achieved almost nothing that had an impact on the average Pakistani's life. Two of his neighbors, India and Bangladesh, made rapid progress during the same time, when Imran Khan was in power in Pakistan. Imran Khan was constantly occupied in blaming everyone for his failures, from the opposition parties, the system, the media, the Supreme Court, the establishment, the Western nations, mainly the United States, even close friends like Saudi Arabia, and of course, the easiest target, neighboring India. He forgot to realize that people don't remember why you failed. They only remember what you accomplished. Thanks for watching.